In a world that often feels like it's spinning faster than we can keep up, where stress and uncertainty seem to be constant companions, how do we find the calm within the chaos? Marcus Aurelius, one of history's greatest Stoic thinkers, once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." These words, written nearly 2,000 years ago, still ring true today. They remind us that while we can't control the world around us, we can control how we respond to it. That's the essence of Stoicism, a philosophy built not on wishful thinking, but on practical tools for living with clarity, resilience, and peace. In this video, we'll explore 25 powerful Stoic practices that can help you build inner strength and navigate life's challenges with grace. Whether you're facing stress at work, uncertainty in relationships, or the weight of personal struggles, these timeless principles offer a roadmap to a steadier, more grounded way of being. So, if you're ready to discover how ancient wisdom can transform your modern life, let's dive in. At the heart of Stoic philosophy lies a simple yet transformative idea, the dichotomy of control. This principle teaches us to clearly distinguish between what is within our power to change and what lies beyond it. The Stoics believed that much of our suffering stems from trying to control the uncontrollable, whether it's other people's opinions, external events, or even the weather. By focusing our energy solely on what we can influence, we free ourselves from unnecessary stress and anxiety. As Epictetus famously put it, some things are within our power while others are not. Within our power are opinion, motivation, desire, and aversion. In short, whatever is of our own doing. Think about it this way: imagine you're stuck in traffic. You can't control the cars ahead of you, the timing of the lights, or the fact that you're running late. But what you can control is how you respond to the situation. Instead of letting frustration take over, you might use the time to listen to an audiobook, reflect on your day, or simply practice patience. This shift in perspective doesn't just reduce stress, it empowers you to reclaim your inner peace even in the midst of chaos. The same principle applies to work stress. You can't always control deadlines, demanding clients, or unexpected challenges, but you can control how you prepare, how you manage your time, and how you choose to react when things don't go as planned. By focusing on these actionable areas, you transform what might feel like overwhelming pressure into a series of manageable steps. So, here's a question to reflect on. What situations in your life could you reframe using the dichotomy of control? Where are you spending energy on things you can't change, and how might redirecting that focus bring you closer to calm and clarity? The answers might just surprise you and open the door to a more peaceful way of living. Have you ever wondered how some people seem to stay calm even in the face of life's toughest moments? One powerful Stoic practice that can help you build that kind of resilience is called premeditatio malorum, or negative visualization. The Stoic philosopher Seneca once said, "What is quite unlooked for is more crushing in its effect, and unexpectedness adds to the weight of a disaster." In other words, when we anticipate challenges, we're better equipped to handle them and even find strength in the process. Negative visualization isn't about dwelling on fear or pessimism. Instead, it's a mental exercise where you imagine worst-case scenarios to prepare yourself emotionally and practically. For example, think about what you would do if you suddenly lost your job or faced a serious health issue. By visualizing these situations, you're not inviting them to happen, but rather training your mind to face adversity with clarity and courage. This practice can also deepen your gratitude for the good things in your life right now. When you consciously consider what you might lose, you begin to appreciate what you have even more. Here's a simple way to apply this. Take a moment to reflect on something you value deeply. Your career, your relationships, or even your health. Now imagine it's no longer there. How would you respond? What steps would you take to rebuild? By asking yourself these questions, you're not only preparing for the unexpected, but also cultivating a sense of gratitude for the present. So, how might visualizing challenges help you feel more grounded? When you've already walked through the worst in your mind, the real-life version often feels less overwhelming. It's like having a mental safety net. You know you've thought it through, and that alone can bring a sense of calm. This practice doesn't just make you stronger, it helps you live with greater intention and appreciation for the life you're building, one day at a time. What if I told you that every challenge, every setback, even every failure in your life could become a source of strength and growth? That's the essence of Amor Fati, the Stoic practice of loving your fate. It's not about passive resignation or giving up. It's about embracing everything life throws at you, the good and the bad, with open arms. Friedrich Nietzsche, the philosopher who popularized this idea, saw it as a way to transform suffering into something meaningful. He said, "My formula for greatness in a human being is Amor Fati. That one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity." Take Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher. He faced wars, plagues, and betrayal, yet he found a way to see these trials as opportunities to practice virtue and resilience. In his writings, he reminds himself, "What stands in the way becomes the way." For Marcus, every obstacle was a chance to grow stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. Imagine applying that mindset to your own life. A sudden career change, a breakup, or even a personal loss. What if you could see these events not as roadblocks but as stepping stones? Think about a recent setback you've experienced. Maybe it's something that felt overwhelming at the time. What would it look like to accept it fully, to even love it? Not because it was easy or pleasant, but because it shaped you, taught you something, or redirected your path in ways you couldn't have imagined. Amor Fati is about finding meaning in the chaos and realizing that even the hardest moments have a role in your story. So, what recent event can you learn to accept and maybe even love? One of the most transformative practices in Stoicism is the habit of daily reflection, a moment to pause, look inward, and examine the events of your day with a calm and honest mind. Marcus Aurelius, one of history's most revered Stoic philosophers, once wrote, "When you have difficulty getting out of bed in the morning, remember that your defining characteristic is to work with others, even the lazy ones." At first glance, this might seem unrelated to reflection, but what Marcus is really pointing to is the importance of aligning your actions with your values, and that starts with understanding yourself. Daily reflection isn't just about looking back, it's about moving forward with greater clarity and purpose. So, what does this practice look like in action? It begins with setting aside a few quiet moments at the end of your day, maybe before bed or after dinner, to ask yourself a few key questions. What did you do well today? Where did you fall short? What thoughts or emotions dominated your mind? This isn't about judging yourself harshly, but about observing without attachment, like a scientist studying their own behavior. The Stoics believed that by examining our actions, thoughts, and emotions, we can identify patterns, learn from our mistakes, and celebrate our progress. Over time, this builds self-awareness, which is the foundation of inner peace. A simple framework to guide your reflection might include 3 steps. First, review your actions. Did you act in alignment with your values, or did you let external pressures steer you? Second, examine your thoughts. Were they rational and constructive, or did they spiral into negativity? And third, reflect on your emotions. Were they in your control, or did they control you? These questions aren't meant to overwhelm you, but to help you grow. By consistently asking, "What lessons can I take from today's experiences?" you're training your mind to focus on growth rather than regret. this practice isn't just about self-improvement, it's about cultivating a sense of calm amidst life's chaos. When you take the time to reflect, you're giving yourself permission to slow down, to process, and to let go of what no longer serves you. It's like decluttering your mind, creating space for clarity and peace. And while it might feel small at first, the cumulative effect of daily reflection is profound. Over time, you'll notice that you're more grounded, more intentional, and more at peace with yourself, even on the toughest days. So tonight, before you close your eyes, take a few moments to reflect. What will you carry forward, and what will you leave behind? How often do you find yourself replaying past mistakes or worrying about what might happen tomorrow? It's so easy to get caught up in thoughts about what's already happened or what's yet to come. But the Stoics remind us that the only moment we truly have is the present. Epictetus once said, "We are not disturbed by things, but by the views we take of them." In other words, our suffering often comes from focusing on what's outside our control, whether it's the past, which we can't change, or the future, which we can't predict. Stoicism and mindfulness share a powerful common thread: the importance of grounding yourself in the here and now. By focusing on the present, you reclaim your power to act with intention and clarity. It's not about ignoring the past or future entirely, it's about not letting them dominate your thoughts. When you're fully present, you're better equipped to handle challenges with calm and rationality. Here's a simple practice to bring you back to the moment. When you feel overwhelmed or distracted, pause for just a few seconds. Take a deep breath and notice what's around you, the sounds, the sights, even the sensations in your body. This small act of observation can help you break free from the spiral of overthinking and refocus on what's right in front of you. Think about it. What distractions tend to pull you away from the present? Is it your phone, a looming deadline, or maybe even your own thoughts? Once you identify what's pulling your attention away, you can take small steps to refocus. Maybe it's setting boundaries with technology, or simply reminding yourself to return to the moment when your mind starts to wander. The present is where life happens, so why not make the most of it? One of the most powerful tools in the Stoic toolkit is the practice of voluntary discomfort. Seneca, the great Roman philosopher, once said, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." This idea might sound counterintuitive at first. Why would anyone choose to endure hardship when life already throws so much our way? But here's the truth. By intentionally facing small, manageable challenges, we train ourselves to handle life's larger obstacles with grace and resilience. Think of it like this. If you've ever trained for a marathon, you didn't start by running 26 miles on day one. You began with shorter distances, gradually building your endurance. The same principle applies to mental strength. Voluntary discomfort is about taking on small, intentional hardships to prepare yourself for the unexpected. It could be something as simple as taking a cold shower instead of a warm one, skipping a meal to practice fasting, or even waking up an hour earlier than usual. These acts might seem minor, but they're like mental push-ups. Each one strengthens your ability to remain calm and composed when life gets tough. The beauty of this practice is that it's entirely within your control. You're not waiting for hardship to find you. You're choosing to meet it head-on in a way that's deliberate and purposeful. Over time, these small acts of discomfort build a kind of inner armor, helping you face adversity with confidence rather than fear. So here's a question to reflect on. What's one small discomfort you can embrace today? It doesn't have to be dramatic or extreme. Start with something manageable, something that pushes you just slightly outside your comfort zone. Because every time you do, you're not just enduring, you're growing stronger, one step at a time. Stoicism teaches us that true peace doesn't come from the outcomes we chase, but from the effort we put forth. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." These words remind us that while we can't always control what happens in the world, we can control how we respond, how we prepare, and how we act. This shift in focus from external results to internal effort is where true freedom lies. When you untangle your happiness from outcomes, you reclaim your peace. Think about it. How often do we stress over things we can't control? What others think, how a situation unfolds, or whether we'll achieve a specific goal? That anxiety is exhausting, but when you focus on doing your best on the effort itself, you can let go of the rest. Take preparing for a presentation, for example. Instead of obsessing over whether the audience will applaud or critique, focus on the work you're putting in. Study the material, practice your delivery, and refine your message. Those are the things you control. The outcome, that's out of your hands, and that's okay. By detaching from the need for a specific result, you free yourself from the weight of expectations. You become less anxious, more present, and more resilient. So, the next time you find yourself worrying about an outcome, ask yourself, what can I do right now to give my best effort? Shift your attention to your actions, not the results. That's where your power lies. Life, as the Stoics remind us, is a river, constantly flowing, never stagnant. Seneca once wrote, "Time discovers truth, but it also sweeps away all that is fleeting." This idea of impermanence lies at the heart of Stoic philosophy. Change is not just inevitable, it's the very fabric of existence. Seasons shift, relationships evolve, and even the most stable aspects of life are subject to transformation. But instead of resisting this truth, the Stoics teach us to embrace it. By accepting impermanence, we free ourselves from the fear of loss and the weight of attachment. Think about it. How often do we cling to things, jobs, relationships, or even our own self-image as if they were permanent? The Stoics would argue that this resistance to change only amplifies our suffering. When we learn to see impermanence as a natural part of life, we can approach transitions with grace rather than dread. For example, consider how rapidly technology has reshaped our world over the past few decades. Those who adapt to these changes thrive, while those who resist often find themselves left behind. So, what changes in your own life can you learn to accept more gracefully? Is it the end of a chapter, the shifting dynamics of a relationship, or even the inevitable process of aging? When we stop fighting the tide of change and instead learn to flow with it, we find a deeper sense of peace and resilience. Impermanence isn't something to fear, it's an invitation to live more fully, to appreciate what we have while we have it, and to let go when the time comes. One of the most transformative practices in Stoicism is the act of cultivating gratitude. The Stoics believe that true contentment doesn't come from acquiring more, but from fully appreciating what we already possess. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic teachers, once said, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." This simple yet profound idea reminds us that our happiness isn't tied to external circumstances, but to the way we choose to see and value our lives. When we practice gratitude, we shift our focus from what we lack to what we already have. It's a mental pivot that turns scarcity into abundance. Instead of chasing after more success, more possessions, more recognition, we pause to recognize the small, often overlooked blessings that surround us every day. Maybe it's the warmth of the sun on your face, the laughter of a loved one, or even the quiet moments of stillness in a busy world. These are the things that, when noticed, can fill us with a deep sense of fulfillment. A practical way to bring this Stoic principle into your life is by starting a daily gratitude practice. Each day, take a moment to write down 3 things you're thankful for. It could be something as simple as a good meal, a kind word from a friend, or even the opportunity to learn and grow. Over time, this habit trains your mind to seek out and appreciate the good, even in challenging times. It's not about ignoring difficulties, but about balancing them with a recognition of the beauty and goodness that still exist. So take a moment to reflect. What are the small blessings in your life that often go unnoticed? What do you already have that, if you pause to appreciate it, could bring you a sense of peace and joy? Gratitude, as the Stoics taught, is a powerful tool for building inner strength and finding contentment in the present moment. It's not just a practice, it's a way of seeing the world. Challenges aren't roadblocks, they're stepping stones. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The obstacle is the way," a simple yet profound reminder that every difficulty we face carries the potential to become an advantage. Instead of seeing obstacles as something to avoid, Stoicism teaches us to embrace them as opportunities for growth and transformation. It's not about what happens to us, but how we choose to respond. When we reframe our mindset, we unlock a powerful tool for building resilience and inner strength. Take criticism, for example. It's easy to feel defensive or defeated when someone points out our flaws. But what if, instead of taking it personally, we viewed it as valuable feedback? Criticism can highlight areas where we need to grow, pushing us to become better versions of ourselves. It's not the criticism itself that defines us, it's how we use it to improve. This shift in perspective turns what could be a setback into a catalyst for progress. So, what's the obstacle in your life right now? Maybe it's a tough project at work, a strained relationship, or even a personal goal that feels out of reach. Instead of letting it weigh you down, ask yourself, how can this challenge help me grow? What can I learn from this situation? When you start to see obstacles as opportunities, you'll find that every difficulty becomes a chance to build resilience, deepen your understanding, and move closer to the person you're striving to become. One of the most transformative practices in Stoicism is the act of limiting desires, not as a form of deprivation, but as a pathway to freedom. Seneca, the great Roman Stoic, once warned, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." This idea cuts to the heart of why so many of us feel restless even when we have enough. The problem isn't a lack of possessions or achievements, it's the endless chase for more. Stoicism teaches us to distinguish between what we truly need and what we merely want. By reducing unnecessary desires, we create space for contentment to grow. Think about it. How often do we clutter our lives with things we don't really need? Extra gadgets, endless entertainment, or even the constant need for validation. These desires don't just fill our homes, they fill our minds, leaving little room for peace. Simplifying your wants doesn't mean living a barren life. It means focusing on what truly matters so you can appreciate the richness of what you already have. So, how can you start? A practical first step is decluttering not just your physical space, but your mental and emotional spaces too. Begin by asking yourself, what do I truly value? Then, let go of the things that don't align with those values. Another way to limit desires is by reducing screen time. Constant exposure to ads and social media can fuel the illusion that we're missing out, creating a cycle of wanting more. Instead, try spending time in nature, reading, or simply being present with the people you care about. The Stoics believed that true wealth isn't measured by what you own, but by what you can live without. What desire can you let go of today to make room for greater peace? It might be the urge to buy something new, the need to check your phone every few minutes, or even the pressure to keep up with others. Every time you resist an unnecessary want, you strengthen your inner resilience and move closer to a life of calm and clarity. How often do we stop to consider how others might be feeling? When we practice empathy and compassion, we not only help others but also cultivate a deeper sense of inner peace within ourselves. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly." They are like this because they cannot tell good from evil. At first glance, this might sound harsh, but it's a reminder that everyone is grappling with their own struggles, fears, and misunderstandings. When we recognize this shared humanity, it becomes easier to approach others with kindness rather than judgment. Empathy isn't just about feeling for someone, it's about stepping into their shoes, even when their actions might frustrate or confuse us. Think about the last time you had a disagreement with someone. Maybe it was a heated conversation with a coworker or a misunderstanding with a loved one. What if, instead of reacting defensively, you pause to consider what might be driving their behavior? Perhaps they're stressed, overwhelmed, or simply seeing the world through a different lens. By choosing understanding over conflict, you not only diffuse tension but also create space for connection and resolution. Compassion, on the other hand, is empathy in action. It's the choice to respond to someone's struggles with care and support, even when it's not easy. For example, imagine a colleague snaps at you during a busy day. Instead of snapping back, you take a moment to ask if they're okay. That small act of compassion can transform the interaction, turning frustration into mutual respect. It's not about ignoring your own feelings, it's about balancing them with a willingness to see the bigger picture. So, how can you approach others with more compassion today? Maybe it's as simple as listening more intently, offering a kind word, or giving someone the benefit of the doubt. Every act of empathy, no matter how small, ripples outward, fostering peace not just in your own heart but in the world around you. When we choose to see the humanity in others, we begin to see it more clearly in ourselves. The Stoics believed that true strength and peace come not from external achievements or material wealth, but from living a life rooted in virtue. As Epictetus once said, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. This simple yet profound idea reminds us that integrity, aligning our actions with our values, is the foundation of a meaningful life. It's not about perfection, but about consistently striving to act with honesty, courage, and compassion, even when it's hard. Think about it. When you face a tough situation, like being honest when it might cost you something, or standing up for what's right even when it's unpopular, those are the moments that truly test and build your inner strength. Every time you choose virtue over convenience, you're not just doing the right thing, you're strengthening your character. It's like a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it becomes. So, what virtue can you prioritize in your daily life? Maybe it's patience when dealing with frustrating situations, or generosity even when resources feel tight. Perhaps it's simply being kind to someone who doesn't deserve it. These small, intentional acts of virtue add up, creating a life of integrity and resilience. The Stoics teach us that when we focus on living virtuously, we align ourselves with what truly matters, and that's where lasting inner peace and strength are found. Anger is one of the most destructive emotions we can experience, and it has a unique way of shattering our inner peace. The Stoic philosopher Seneca once said, "Anger, if not restrained, is frequently more hurtful to us than the injury that provokes it." Think about that for a moment. When we let anger take control, we often cause more harm to ourselves than the situation or person that sparked it. It's like holding onto a burning coal. You're the one who gets burned. So, how do the Stoics suggest we handle anger? One of their most powerful tools is the pause. When you feel anger rising, instead of reacting immediately, take a moment to step back. Breathe, allow yourself space to process what's happening. This small act of pausing can prevent a cascade of regretful actions. Another Stoic technique is reframing. Ask yourself, is this situation really worth my energy? Am I interpreting it correctly? Often, we react not to the event itself, but to our interpretation of it. By shifting your perspective, you can diffuse the intensity of your emotions. Let's make this practical. Imagine you're stuck in traffic and someone cuts you off. Your first instinct might be to honk, yell, or even retaliate. But what if instead you took a deep breath and reminded yourself that this person's actions aren't about you? Maybe they're having a bad day or they're rushing to an emergency. Reframing the situation this way can help you respond with patience rather than anger. What about your own life? What situations tend to trigger your anger? Is it a rude comment, a missed deadline, or feeling undervalued? Take a moment to reflect on your triggers and ask yourself, how can I respond more calmly? The Stoics believed that while we can't always control what happens to us, we can control how we respond. By practicing these techniques, you're not just letting go of anger, you're reclaiming your peace and strength. The Stoics understood that humility isn't about thinking less of yourself, it's about thinking of yourself less. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers and a Roman emperor, once reflected, "Keep in mind how fast things pass by and are forgotten, and how small a part of the universe you are." This perspective invites us to step back and see the bigger picture. When we recognize our place in the grand scheme of things, it becomes easier to let go of the ego-driven need to control, impress, or dominate every situation. Humility, in the Stoic sense, is a powerful tool for inner peace. It helps us detach from the stress of constantly needing to prove ourselves or seeking validation from others. Think about it. How often do we feel anxious or frustrated because we're clinging to our pride? Maybe it's resisting constructive criticism at work or refusing to admit we made a mistake in a relationship. When we practice humility, we open ourselves to growth and reduce the weight of those ego-driven pressures. For example, imagine someone gives you feedback that initially feels harsh. Instead of reacting defensively, you pause, reflect, and consider how their perspective might help you improve. That's humility in action, choosing peace over pride. But humility doesn't mean self-deprecation or shrinking away from challenges. It's about approaching life with a quiet confidence, knowing that you don't have to be the loudest voice in the room to make an impact. It's about recognizing that every person, no matter their status or achievements, is just one small part of a much larger universe. This realization can be incredibly freeing. When we stop taking ourselves so seriously, we create space for calmness, clarity, and connection with others. So, how might humility help you navigate challenges more peacefully? Perhaps by reminding you that setbacks are temporary, that criticism is an opportunity, and that life is less about winning and more about learning. What if the key to building unshakable inner peace and strength lies not in what you already know, but in your willingness to keep learning? The Stoics believed that wisdom wasn't just a destination, it was a lifelong journey. Seneca once said, "As long as you live, keep learning how to live." This idea is at the heart of Stoicism, the relentless pursuit of knowledge and understanding, not just for its own sake, but as a way to cultivate resilience and adaptability in the face of life's challenges. Think about it. When you actively seek wisdom, you're not just accumulating facts or ideas. You're training your mind to see the world with clarity, to question assumptions, and to respond to adversity with thoughtful action rather than reactive emotion. It's about growing into the best version of yourself, one lesson at a time. And the beauty of this approach is that it's accessible to everyone. You don't need to be a scholar or a sage, you just need to be curious. So, how can you put this into practice? Start small. Pick up a book on philosophy or dive into the works of the Stoics themselves, Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, or Seneca. If reading isn't your thing, seek out mentors or people whose lives inspire you. Listen to their stories, ask questions, and reflect on how their experiences might inform your own. Even something as simple as journaling about what you've learned each day can help you internalize new insights and apply them to your life. Here's a question to consider. What area of your life could benefit from a little more curiosity? Is it a skill you've been meaning to develop, a relationship you'd like to deepen, or a challenge you've been avoiding? Whatever it is, approach it with the mindset of a student. You might be surprised at how much growth and resilience you'll uncover along the way. The Stoics understood something profound. Freedom comes not from having more, but from needing less. Epictetus once said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." This idea is at the heart of simplifying your life, a practice that can transform not just your surroundings, but your inner world too. Think about it. When your life is cluttered, whether it's with physical stuff, endless commitments, or even unnecessary thoughts, it's hard to find peace. Simplifying isn't about deprivation, it's about creating space for what truly matters. Start with the tangible. Take a look around your home. Are there items you no longer use or need? Clutter can weigh you down, not just physically but mentally. Decluttering isn't just about organizing, it's about reclaiming your energy and focus. When you let go of what no longer serves you, you make room for clarity and calm. And it's not just about your physical space. Consider your schedule too. Are there obligations or habits that drain you rather than fulfill you? Setting boundaries around your time is another way to simplify. Say no to what doesn't align with your values or goals, and you'll find more time for what brings you joy and purpose. But simplification goes deeper than just your external world. It's also about decluttering your mind. How often do you find yourself caught in a whirlwind of overthinking or worrying? Stoicism teaches us to focus on what's within our control and let go of what isn't. When you simplify your thoughts, cutting out unnecessary worries or distractions, you create mental peace. Try this at the end of each day. Take a moment to reflect. What thoughts or concerns are lingering? Which ones can you release? This practice of mental decluttering can be just as powerful as tidying up your home. So, here's a question to consider. What can you simplify in your life to feel more at ease? Maybe it's clearing out a drawer, saying no to a commitment that no longer serves you, or simply letting go of a worry that's been weighing on your mind. Whatever it is, remember that simplicity isn't about losing something, it's about gaining freedom. By embracing minimalism in all its forms, you create the space to live more intentionally, more peacefully, and more fully aligned with the Stoic ideal of a life well lived. In a world that seems to move at lightning speed, where instant gratification is often the norm, the value of patience can feel like a forgotten art. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. This timeless wisdom reminds us that while we can't control how quickly things happen around us, we can control how we respond to delays and setbacks. Patience isn't just about waiting, it's about maintaining your inner calm and perspective when things don't go as planned. It's a skill that, when practiced, can transform frustration into resilience. Think about it. How often do we feel agitated when traffic slows us down, or when a project at work takes longer than expected? These moments are opportunities to exercise patience. By shifting our mindset, we can see delays not as obstacles, but as chances to practice self-control and emotional balance. For example, imagine someone working toward a promotion. It might take months, even years, to achieve that goal. Instead of growing frustrated, they can focus on what they can do in the present, building skills, networking, or simply doing their best work. This approach not only reduces stress but also builds the kind of perseverance that leads to long-term success. So, what situation in your life right now could use a little more patience? Is it a personal goal, a relationship, or maybe even something as simple as waiting for a reply to an important email? Whatever it is, remember that patience isn't passive. It's an active choice to stay grounded and purposeful, even when the world feels like it's moving too slowly. By embracing this mindset, you're not just enduring the wait, you're building the inner strength to thrive through it. One of the most powerful ways Stoics build inner strength is by mastering the art of accepting criticism gracefully. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, once said, "When a wise man is criticized, he asks himself, if what they say is true, what can I learn from it? If it's false, why should I let it disturb me?" This mindset shifts criticism from being a personal attack to an opportunity for growth. Instead of reacting defensively, Stoics see feedback as a mirror reflecting areas where they can improve, or as a reminder to stay grounded when the criticism is unfounded. Think about a time when you received constructive criticism at work. Maybe your manager pointed out a flaw in a project you were proud of, or a colleague offered a suggestion that felt a bit uncomfortable to hear. In the moment, it's easy to feel defensive or even hurt. But what if you approached that feedback with curiosity rather than resistance? What if you asked yourself, what can this teach me? By adopting this Stoic perspective, you transform criticism into a tool for self-improvement rather than a threat to your self-worth. Handling criticism with openness and grace doesn't mean you have to agree with everything said. It simply means choosing to respond thoughtfully rather than reacting impulsively. When you detach your ego from the feedback, you create space to evaluate it objectively. Is there truth in it? If so, how can you use it to grow? If not, why let it consume your energy? This approach not only builds resilience but also fosters a sense of calm confidence, knowing that your worth isn't defined by others' opinions. So how can you practice this in your own life? Start by pausing the next time you receive criticism. Take a deep breath and instead of immediately defending yourself, ask, what can I learn here? Over time, this simple shift in perspective can help you navigate feedback with greater ease, turning what might feel like a stumbling block into a stepping stone toward becoming stronger and more self-aware. Have you ever noticed how much noise surrounds us in modern life? From the constant hum of notifications to the endless chatter of social media, it feels like we're always plugged in, always distracted. But what if the key to inner peace lies not in adding more to our lives, but in subtracting the noise? As Epictetus once said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." At its core, this is an invitation to find stillness within, to cultivate inner silence. Inner silence isn't about escaping the world or shutting out every sound. It's about creating a space within yourself where clarity can flourish. Think of it like the calm eye of a storm. No matter how chaotic life gets, you can always return to that quiet center. This stillness allows you to see things as they truly are, free from the distortions of stress, anxiety, or overwhelm. It's where you can hear your own thoughts, reconnect with your values, and make decisions from a place of calm rather than chaos. So, how do you cultivate this inner silence? One powerful way is through practices like meditation or mindful breathing. Even just 5 minutes a day of sitting quietly, focusing on your breath, can help you tap into that sense of stillness. Another approach is to create small moments of silence in your daily routine, whether it's walking without headphones, taking a break from screens, or simply pausing to notice the world around you. These moments act like anchors, grounding you in the present and helping you build resilience against the noise of life. The question to ask yourself is this: how can you create more moments of stillness in your day? It doesn't have to be a grand gesture. Sometimes the simplest acts, like stepping outside to feel the breeze or sitting quietly with a cup of tea, can be profound. By intentionally carving out these spaces, you're not just managing stress, you're training your mind to find peace no matter what's happening around you. And in that peace, you'll find a strength that carries you through even the busiest of days. Self-discipline is one of the cornerstones of Stoic philosophy, and for good reason. Marcus Aurelius, one of history's most famous Stoics, once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." This simple yet profound idea reminds us that while we can't control everything that happens to us, we can control how we respond, and that begins with mastering our desires and impulses. The Stoics believed that self-discipline isn't about deprivation or punishment, it's about freedom. When we exercise self-control, we free ourselves from being ruled by fleeting emotions, distractions, or habits that don't serve us. Think about it. How often do we act on autopilot, reaching for our phones, procrastinating, or indulging in things we know don't align with our goals? Self-discipline helps us break those cycles. It's the bridge between who we are and who we want to become. Let's take a practical example. Imagine committing to a morning routine, waking up early, exercising, or journaling. At first, it might feel uncomfortable, even challenging. But over time, as you stick to it, you'll notice something remarkable. The act of showing up for yourself builds inner strength. It's not just about the routine itself, it's about proving to yourself that you have the power to follow through. That's how discipline becomes a source of confidence and resilience. Another way to practice self-discipline is by resisting distractions. In a world filled with constant notifications and endless entertainment, it's easy to lose focus. But when you consciously choose to prioritize what truly matters, whether it's your work, relationships, or personal growth, you're exercising the kind of self-control that Stoics valued deeply. So here's a question to reflect on. What area of your life could benefit from greater self-discipline? Is it your habits, your time management, or maybe how you handle stress? Whatever it is, remember that every small act of discipline is a step toward greater inner peace and strength. And as Marcus Aurelius would remind us, the power to change starts within. There's a quiet power in being alone, a kind of strength that comes not from others but from within. Seneca once said, "Sometimes even to live is an act of courage." And sometimes to simply sit with yourself undisturbed is an act of profound self-care. Solitude isn't about loneliness, it's about creating space to reconnect with your thoughts, your values, and your inner world. It's in these moments of stillness that we often find the clarity we've been searching for. Think about it. How often do you truly allow yourself to be alone, without distractions, without noise? Solitude gives us the chance to reflect on our choices, our goals, and the direction of our lives. It's like hitting the pause button in a world that's always on fast forward. Whether it's through journaling your thoughts, taking a quiet walk in nature, or simply sitting in silence, these moments of solitude can become anchors of peace in a chaotic world. But how do you make room for solitude when life feels overwhelming? Start small. Maybe it's 5 minutes in the morning before the day begins, or a short walk during lunch. The key is to intentionally carve out these moments, even if they feel scarce. Ask yourself, what's one way you can create a little more space for yourself today? Because in solitude, we don't just find peace, we rediscover ourselves. What if the key to lasting inner peace and strength lies not in adding more to your life, but in focusing on what truly matters? As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." This simple yet profound idea challenges us to distinguish between what is essential and what is merely a distraction. When we align our priorities with our deepest values, something remarkable happens. The noise of life quiets down and clarity takes its place. Think about it. How often do we chase after things that, in the grand scheme of life, don't truly matter? The latest gadgets, the perfect job title, or the approval of others can consume so much of our energy and attention. But the Stoics remind us that these things are fleeting. They're external, outside of our control, and ultimately, they won't bring us the lasting fulfillment we crave. What truly matters are the things that nourish our soul and connect us to what's real, our relationships, our character, and the impact we have on the world around us. Take, for example, the choice between spending hours scrolling through social media or investing that time in a meaningful conversation with a loved one. One leaves you feeling empty and scattered, the other fills you with a sense of connection and purpose. When we prioritize what truly matters, we not only reduce stress but also create space for the things that bring genuine joy and meaning into our lives. So let me ask you this: what truly matters to you? Is it your family, your health, or perhaps the pursuit of personal growth? Whatever it is, how can you focus more of your time and energy on it? By identifying these priorities and letting go of the distractions that pull you away from them, you'll find yourself building a life that's not only stronger but also richer in peace and fulfillment. This is the Stoic way, cutting through the clutter to focus on what's essential. One of the most liberating practices in Stoicism is the art of forgiveness. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." At its core, this isn't about letting someone off the hook, it's about freeing yourself from the weight of resentment. Holding on to anger or grudges doesn't punish the other person. It ties you down, keeping you stuck in a cycle of negativity. Forgiveness, in the Stoic sense, is a radical act of self-care. It's saying, I won't let this person's actions dictate my peace. Think about a time when a friend or colleague made a mistake that hurt you. Maybe they forgot an important commitment or said something careless. It's easy to dwell on that moment, replaying it in your mind and letting it fuel frustration. But what happens when you choose to forgive? Suddenly, the tension eases. You're no longer carrying the burden of their actions. Forgiveness doesn't mean excusing poor behavior. It means refusing to let it control your emotional state. It's a step toward reclaiming your inner calm. And here's the question to reflect on: who in your life could you forgive to lighten your emotional load? It might be someone close to you or even yourself. Sometimes the hardest person to forgive is the one staring back at you in the mirror. But when you release that resentment, you create space for peace, clarity, and strength. Forgiveness isn't weakness, it's a powerful tool for building resilience and moving forward with a lighter heart. At the heart of Stoicism lies a timeless principle: to live in accordance with nature. Seneca once said, "If you live in harmony with nature, you will never be poor. If you live according to popular opinion, you will never be rich." This isn't just about physical wealth, it's about aligning your life with the natural order of the world, embracing its rhythms, and finding peace in acceptance rather than resistance. When we fight against the natural flow of life, we create unnecessary suffering. But when we learn to move with it, we find strength, clarity, and a deeper sense of harmony. So, what does it mean to live in accordance with nature? It's about recognizing that there are forces beyond our control. Seasons change, people come and go, and life unfolds in ways we can't always predict. Instead of resisting these realities, Stoicism teaches us to accept them. This doesn't mean passivity. It means understanding what we can influence and what we must let go of. By aligning ourselves with nature's cycles, we reduce the friction in our lives and open ourselves to a more peaceful existence. One simple way to practice this is by spending time outdoors. Nature has a way of grounding us, reminding us of the bigger picture. Whether it's a walk in the park, sitting by a river, or simply breathing in fresh air, these moments help us reconnect with the natural world and, in turn, with ourselves. Another practice is to align your daily routines with natural cycles, waking with the sunrise, winding down as the sun sets, or even syncing your work and rest patterns with the rhythms of the seasons. Small adjustments like these can bring a profound sense of alignment and calm. How can you live more in tune with nature today? Start by observing. Notice the small details, the way the wind moves through the trees, the sound of birds, or the stillness of a quiet morning. Reflect on how you can incorporate these rhythms into your own life. Perhaps it's taking a moment to pause and breathe deeply, or maybe it's letting go of the need to control every outcome. When we live in harmony with nature, we not only find inner peace but also a deeper connection to the world around us. And that, in the Stoic view, is where true strength lies. As we near the end of this journey through the 25 Stoic practices, it's worth taking a moment to reflect on the collective power they hold. Each principle, whether it's practicing gratitude, embracing discomfort, or focusing on what's within your control, serves as a building block for inner peace and strength. Together, they create a framework for living a life grounded in resilience, clarity, and purpose. These aren't just abstract ideas, they're timeless tools, tested and proven by generations of Stoics who faced challenges not so different from our own. What's remarkable about these practices is their practicality. They don't demand grand gestures or dramatic changes. Instead, they invite you to make small, intentional shifts in how you think and act. It's about finding strength in simplicity, peace in perspective, and clarity in the midst of chaos. The beauty of Stoicism lies in its ability to adapt to your life, no matter where you are or what you're facing. To close, let's turn to the words of Marcus Aurelius, who reminds us, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." This simple yet profound truth encapsulates the essence of Stoicism. It's not about controlling the world around you, but mastering your response to it. That's where true peace and resilience are found. As you reflect on these 25 practices, consider which ones resonate most with you. Maybe it's the idea of focusing on what you can control, or the practice of journaling to process your thoughts. Whatever it is, start small. Choose one or two principles to weave into your daily life and see how they transform your mindset over time. If you found value in exploring Stoicism, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share in the comments which practices stood out to you or how you plan to apply them. And if you're eager to dive deeper into Stoic wisdom, don't forget to subscribe for more insights and discussions. Together, let's continue building lives of strength, peace, and purpose, one Stoic practice at a time.